Fentanyl is killing Americans at record rates.
But 100,000 die every year, and nothing's being done. Not enough is being done. Numbers are going up.
We haven't seen anything like fentanyl. Its toxicity, these cartels are peddling in death and destruction.
100 times stronger than morphine and 50 times more potent than heroin. The powerful painkiller fentanyl is fueling America's worst ever drugs crisis.
I ended up homeless, living in a tent along a river. You know, it took everything from me.
Madeline Sweet was in her mid-20s and had just finished a law degree when she became addicted to opioids. Fentanyl was cheap and easy to get on the dark web.
The first time I ever got fentanyl, I got a gram of it free as a sample from this clandestine lab in China. Immediately, I was sold, because once you start using fentanyl, it's difficult to go back to anything else. Your tolerance gets just obliterated. I needed it quicker, and I needed it more often.
When fentanyl is in control of you, what's that like?
Was a time that I was brushing my teeth, and I wake up 3 hours later, and I was in this really weird position where my legs had been totally cut off from any circulation. I'm bawling. I'm in just immense pain. And immediately the next thing I did was I took another hit.
How close did you come to losing your life?
I took what's known as a hot shot, and basically within a few minutes, my lips turned blue. I went limp. I have overdosed.
Just 2 milligrams, about the same weight as 2 grains of salt, can kill within minutes.
When fentanyl is used recreationally, often the dose isn't known, and that's when it becomes quite dangerous. And because it's so potent, there's a lot of margin for error.
After her close call, Madeline's mum finally convinced her to get help.
She showed up to the encampment where I was, and yeah, I collapsed. You know, it's like your mother's love is something that has the power to heal you, and it's you know, that unconditional love. I felt it really, really strongly that day, and sorry. And I'm so grateful that she, you know, gave me the space to come home and get better.
I'm incredibly worried about the prospect of fentanyl getting a foothold here in Australia. We can only look overseas to see what the consequences of that would be for our community, and it is just devastating.
Australian authorities have cause for concern. Border officials at the Port of Melbourne last year pulled off the largest seizure of fentanyl in the nation's history. About 28 kilograms of the opioid and 30 kilograms of methamphetamine was smuggled inside a piece of machinery.
It is capable of, you know, more than 5 million lethal doses. If this had reached the community, people die. It's as simple as that. The people who want to try and harm our community for profit, for money, it's just pure evil.
Commander Kate Ferry says the shipment they intercepted could have been enough to create a market in Australia.
It could well have, yes. So they could have used that quantity to cut other types of drugs like methamphetamine or heroin, and then unbeknownst to the user, start that addiction process like that, or they can sell it by itself.
Could this be worse than ice?
We're looking at what's happening in the United States. That is overtaking the ice epidemic there. So yes, it could be.
Why is Australia appealing for drug importation?
We are one of the highest users of methamphetamine and heroin per capita in the world. So we have a real insatiable appetite for illicit drugs, and we're willing to pay high prices.
Where does it come from?
What we've got is Mexican cartels working with Chinese organised crime, and that's a really concerning relationship for us.
Experts say Australia's illicit fentanyl market is small right now, and consumption of the drug is low.
Most of the fentanyl that's used illicitly is coming from the pharmaceutical system, so potentially diverted from prescriptions that are intended for medical use.
Aspiring athlete Angus McGivern was prescribed fentanyl for chronic pain. He he became heavily addicted.
It is horrifically addictive, and it's also incredibly dangerous. It's a respiratory depressant, and many people go to sleep, just like my son did, and don't wake up.
GPs prescribed Angus the lethal drug for years, until in 2017, it eventually killed him.
He was a doctor shopper and he was on the opioid treatment program, and still he was able to very easily get fentanyl. If fentanyl wasn't available to Angus, there is no doubt that he would be alive today.
In 2020, there were 165 unintentional deaths in Australia involving the opioids fentanyl, pethidine and tramadol. That's an increase of almost 1,300% since 2006, when 12 people died.
People think that if you can buy it at a pharmacy or that it's been made by a pharmaceutical company, then it's not going to kill them. But it is.
Since Angus's death, real-time prescription monitoring has made it harder for addicts to get their hands on controlled medicines. While Australia has so far avoided a crisis on a similar scale to the US, experts warn we're nowhere near ready to combat an influx of the drug.
If we had fentanyl arrive on our shores with our current treatment access situation, I think the results would be fairly devastating.
The only meaningful way to address this problem is to stop it before it even gets in the country. Once it's introduced, overdoses will skyrocket. People will act more erratic in pursuit of their drug. I definitely think that death was an inevitability for me if I had not stopped using.
Madeline is one of the lucky ones. She's come out the other side and has been clean for 18 months.
I now, I have my own place. I have a great job. I have an amazing relationship with my family. All the things that make life meaningful, I've regained. And I only want to move forward.
I think looking at that attempt at importation, you look at the sheer amount and how many lives that could have potentially claimed if it got into Australia, and that would only be the beginning. It's a problem that you look at in the US and you think, thank God it's not here. And to see how close it is to our shores, I had no idea.
Yeah, and what's really scary is, people are prescribed it and then they're addicted to it and they can't get off it. So they're constantly chasing that first hit, right? You've taken it before?
Yeah. In a hospital setting, it was something that was given to me, and it was only a once-off because of extreme pain. But I know that there are some people who, after, say, a back injury, surgery, something that's more longer term, then you're stuck.
Well, they're certainly very worried about it at Border Force and the AFP, so it's certainly an eye-opening story I found to report anyway.
Great job, Haim. And for addiction treatment or support, you can always call the National Alcohol and Other Drug Hotline on 1-800-250-015.